enra Dr. Kwame Nkrumah birthday celebration na John Dramani Mahama ekopiem honum. Sadly any heartbreaking or the nsem bi etu bia yenim se enche bia na po ye pa na hontoma Kumase no okeka nsem bia wo kire mu se Dr. Kwame Nkrumah na se mo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah no wanya de bia mfa mboa Ghana even Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo krampo no modern ese Kwame Nkrumah we nsem anapo eba abontene ebe kan na nsem we nyina echi no John Dramani Mahama enura waba abontene abe responded to NPP ene nsema na po ewokaye enye no nkwa wasa expose the Big6 nyina nim say anase e call school no yetete say the Big6 ene je eyefa ahodie edema Ghana nemom no John Dramani Mahama so won nsem ka ewo ho na nsem ben na John Dramani Mahama kan ase e malikbasintale TV so we ene dey come channel so more than subscribe if my enra ewo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah birthday celebration ase John Dramani Mahama emma yenye ntie say Ghana for kasa NAPO kasa NPP for kasa say Dr. Kwame Nkrumah anya hwe amfa mbo Ghana yenkonkwohwe infrastructures equine schools hospitals nioma Dr. Kwame Nkrumah eyema Ghana besinde Ghana egusunya ho mfaso we response John Dramani Mahama edema NAPO based on nsema akoka na Kumase time na ye pa no ho ntoma enyina nso enim say ye coast ko no mka che say the Big6 energy efa ahodi edema Ghana John Dramani Mahama say wonder wasemka na ono de wonjintum se nkofo no na je efa ahodi edema Ghana de onu nimne say Dr. Kwame Nkrumah energy efa ahodi edema Ghana nemu the Big6 na omo kan wansem ne de ono de ono mo nya adwen send de Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo kan ba bi say enye Dr. Kwame Nkrumah na je efa ahodi anase nyo no kan je efa ahodi de ma Ghana no John Dramani Mahama akanta no a wo chemu say the Big6 na omo de omo eka fa ahodi na Ghana je ho the Big6 bia nka Dr. Kwame Nkrumah energy efa ahodi no edema Ghana a wo chire mu say even the Big6 na omo claim so omo je efa ahodi edema Ghana no omo twe petition ede koma eye Queen Elizabeth say busia chese me mpese me kasa o de yenti nsem no ankasa emfiri eye John Dramani Mahama ankasa enum say eye malikbasintale TV so when they become back channel so bo homo de subscribe na share efamayen
but the destiny of Africa. Today is a day that every Ghanaian must celebrate and reflect upon. Indeed, on 6th March, the hallowed declaration he made at the old polo ground, and I quote, "At long last, the battle has ended, and Ghana, your beloved country, is free forever." That declaration was an earth-shaking event and marked the beginning of decolonization in the world as we know it today. And so in joining hands today to celebrate the enduring legacy and the vision of this remarkable figure, we are reminded of the enduring transformative impact he had on our continent and the lessons that still resonate with us today. The man, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, was a man of unparalleled vision. When he declared that the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of the African continent, many people did not understand why he would say this. But he was not only merely speaking for Ghana, he was speaking for the whole of Africa. His vision was a bold one. He dreamt of an Africa that was united in its political, economic, and social liberation. This is a vision we're still struggling to fulfill up to date, even half a century after he passed on. But Nkrumah's greatness wasn't in the ideals he held alone. It was in the tangible progress he made towards realizing those ideals. Under his leadership, Ghana became the first African nation to gain independence from colonial rule south of the Sahara. And Ghana became the black star of hope for other African nations. After independence, Ghana became the headquarters of the African Liberation Movement. Freedom fighters from all over Africa were given refuge in Ghana, and they carried Ghanaian diplomatic passports in order to avoid getting arrested when they traveled internationally. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah initiated a program of industrialization and infrastructure development that laid the foundation for what is today modern Ghana. He built factories, and my brother Kofi Boa listed many of them. He built roads, he built educational institutions, and a lot of the economic and social infrastructure that Ghana has today. And indeed, the iconic Akosombo Dam, which still produces almost 30% of Ghana's power, is a testament to the vision of the man Kwame Nkrumah. These are some of the things that Osagyefo was celebrated for. And these infrastructure developments were not just symbols of a nation on the rise, but of Kwame Nkrumah's commitment to Ghana's economic independence. Nkrumah's legacy extends far beyond only infrastructure. His ideals of African unity, social justice, and economic independence are still pillars that guide progressive forces and thought across the African continent. All over Africa, Kwame Nkrumah is included in the educational curriculum of schools in African countries for the study of African history. Decolonization is recognized as one of the momentous events of the 20th century, and this is why Kwame Nkrumah was named as the African of the Millennium by the BBC. When you have identified as a Ghanaian, it is very common to have the name of Kwame Nkrumah mentioned when you travel anywhere in Africa. If you say, I come from Ghana, most likely the first name they will mention is, oh, Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana. This always fills me with a sense of pride when I travel anywhere in the continent. Today we are reminded with deep sadness that the work Nkrumah started is not completed. The future Nkrumah envisioned, a prosperous, united Africa free from exploitation, still calls progressives across this continent to action. The liberation struggle is not over yet. But the question is, what happened? What or who truncated the vision and set us back this way? Before we can fully embrace the vision of Osagyefo, we must first dispel the divisive and needless debates that have recently intensified to try to obliterate his legacy. There are those who seek to dilute Nkrumah's role in our history as the nation's founder by introducing the idea of a Big 6. Let me be clear and unequivocal here. While many, far beyond the Big 6, being bandied around, played significant roles in the independence struggle, Nkrumah was that critical catalyst that brought the struggle to a head and eventually resulted in the historic liberation of Ghana from colonial domination. The so-called Big 6 were an accident of history and not a united force. And the historical record shows this. In fact, some of them actively opposed Nkrumah's vision for a rapid move towards independence. Ladies and gentlemen, indeed, at the time the struggle for independence had crystallized, the UGCC, which was the party of the Big 6, was opposed to the granting of independence by Britain. And this is a historical fact. At the time Britain was getting ready to give Ghana independence, the UGCC, which was the party formed by the Big 6, opposed independence. They actually sent a delegation to Britain to present a petition to Queen Elizabeth not to grant independence to Ghana. How can such a reactionary movement now claim the collective honor as being founders of our nation? Indeed, on 7th August 1956, the UP, which is known as the United Party, which is a successor of the UGCC, opposed and walked out of parliament when Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was moving the motion of destiny, which was the declaration of Ghana's independence. On 7th August 1956, Kwame Nkrumah was Prime Minister, and he was moving the motion for full independence for Ghana, and the United Party, which was a successor of the UGCC, walked out of parliament because they said they didn't want to be part of the declaration of independence. And so how can people turn around now and say that they collectively were founders of this nation, Ghana? This false equivalence, by elevating figures whose contributions, while important, did not match the transformational and radical leadership that Nkrumah offered for Ghana's liberation, must be rejected outright. The hatred and bitterness harbored by those who disliked and hated Nkrumah still erupts from time to time, as exemplified in the recent outrage that was expressed by the whole nation at the description of Kwame Nkrumah in the derogatory term of "that's your Kwame Nkrumah." Sam Kwame Nkrumah no. Mr. Chairman, Nana Chairman, my brothers and sisters, history cannot be revised. No matter how you fill our children's textbooks with different versions of your history, Founders Day must be a day that recognizes Nkrumah, the leader who delivered independence to Ghana and whose vision was continental in scope.